She handed me the book with a smile. Bright cover, big letters, How to Be a Real Man. And under it, a certificate for a therapy session. It'll help you understand yourself, she said, like I was broken and didn't know it. I just stood there, grease still on my hands from fixing her vacuum, staring at the gift like it had slapped me. She laughed, not out loud, but with her eyes. Like this was all so clever. Like I should thank her. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Quietly, finally, and for good. I didn't say a word that night. But let me tell you how we got there. I've been working with metal for most of my adult life. Sheet metal, ducts, aluminum, the kind of stuff that leaves your hands calloused and your back tight by sundown. I install ventilation systems on construction sites. Warehouses, malls, office buildings, big jobs, usually. The kind where the noise is constant and the coffee is burnt, but the paycheck comes through on time. I've been at it for over 10 years. 34 now. You could say I'm a simple guy. Not stupid, just not one to sit around talking about emotional alignment or whatever the hell my wife got into. Back when Jess and I first met, things were different. She used to bake. Like, really bake. Apple pies, banana bread, even tried croissants once. Made a disaster of the kitchen, but we laughed for hours. We'd lay on the couch after dinner, old sitcoms playing on the TV, and she'd fall asleep on my chest. I'd run my fingers through her hair and think, man, this is it. This is the life. We had this tradition. Sunday mornings were ours. I'd make coffee. She'd put on that old, oversized hoodie she stole from me, and we'd sit on the porch, even in the cold. She'd tuck her feet under my legs for warmth, and we'd just talk. About dumb things. About nothing. Sometimes we'd go to yard sales. Not because we needed anything. We barely had space. But because she loved looking through old junk like it had stories to tell. Once, she found this cracked ceramic rooster and made me promise we'd put it in our future kitchen. I still have it somewhere in the garage. She used to call me her steady. Said I was the calm in her chaos. I believed her. And honestly, I like being that for her. We fought, sure. Everyone does. But we laughed more. A lot more. And at night, we'd fall asleep tangled together, her hand on my chest like she needed to feel my heartbeat to sleep. She had this dream of a house out in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, just a place with a big kitchen, a dog maybe kids down the line. She used to show me Pinterest boards of tile backsplashes and farmhouse sinks, and I'd pretend to care while secretly wondering if I could rig up a little grill station right next to her herb garden. Back then, it felt like we were building something. Something real. Something solid. I guess that's why it hurts more now, knowing how far we drifted from that. That was 5 years ago. Now, the house feels cold. Not temperature-wise. The vents work fine. But cold in that way you can't fix with insulation. The kind where she's in the same room, but you'd swear she's miles away. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. Not in anger. Not in affection. Nothing. I'd lie in bed, an arm's length away, and she'd pull the blanket tighter around herself like I was just another draft coming through the window. Sometimes I'd reach out in the dark, not even to hold her, just to feel something. Half the time I'd pull back before I touched anything. It didn't happen all at once. It crept in slow, like rust. A little silence here, a weird phrase there. She started saying stuff like, I need to stay in contact with myself. What the hell does that even mean? The first time she said it, we were driving home from a job I'd just finished. I was wiped. Long day, big commercial install, lots of ladder work. She was in the passenger seat, scrolling on her phone, probably checking one of her wellness blogs. We were on our way to the grocery store. I said I was tired. She looked up and said, I'm in contact with myself. Just like that. I looked at her. That's good. I said, like a question. She didn't answer. Just went back to scrolling. It was like she'd downloaded a new language. A weird, robotic, self-help dialect where everything was about boundaries and emotional containers. She started going to these weekend courses too. Said it was for personal growth. I didn't ask too many questions. Figured maybe it was a phase. Something she'd move through and outgrow. God knows we all go through stuff. They weren't cheap either. Every time she signed up, it was another few hundred gone. An investment in myself, she'd say, like that made the visa bill easier to swallow. Meanwhile, I was patching holes in my work boots with duct tape, telling myself they had a few months left in them. But it kept going. Got deeper. More intense. Like she was peeling away from me, layer by layer. Little things started to shift. Like food. Jess used to love cooking with me. We'd make burgers together, ribs on Sundays, pasta with too much garlic. Then one day she tells me she's plant-based. Not vegetarian. Not vegan. Plant-based. Because apparently that's a lifestyle now. I remember this one trip to the store. We're walking through the aisles. I grab some chicken, toss it in the cart. She pulls it out and looks at me like I've spit on her mom's grave. I don't eat meat anymore, she says. You had meatballs 3 days ago, I remind her. She sighs. That was before I realized I was out of alignment with my nutritional needs. I stared at her. You what now? She gave me this little smirk, like I was being intentionally dense. It's part of my food journey, Kevin. I didn't answer. Just put the chicken back and push the cart. I didn't want to fight. I was tired. Always tired lately. That night we had avocado and quinoa salad. She took a photo of it for Instagram. Captioned it something like, nourishing from the inside out. I chewed in silence and watched the oil separate in the vinaigrette. She spent more and more time on her laptop. Always typing, always reading. Her bookmarks were a mix of forums, articles, TED Talks. She started wearing new perfume too. Not bad, just not her usual scent. Stronger, sharper. Weekends became group work. She'd leave early, come back late. Said it was about working through inherited patterns. I didn't push. What was I going to say? Stop becoming a better version of yourself? Even if that better version didn't seem to like me much. One Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen with my coffee, same chipped mug I've had since college. Jess walks in, already dressed, laptop under her arm. I ask, you heading out? She nods. Group session. We're covering boundaries in relationships today. I stir my coffee. Again with the boundaries? She stops and stares at me. Yes, Kevin. It's important. You wouldn't understand. You haven't even tried to unpack your own patterns. My what now? She exhales like I'm a lost cause. You're emotionally unavailable. You operate from outdated masculinity models, and you refuse to engage with growth. I'm trying to evolve here. I bit the inside of my cheek. I could have told her I work my ass off to keep this house running. That I come home sore and soaked in metal dust while she sits around dissecting the shape of her inner child. But I didn't. I just nodded. Let her leave. That night, she came back smelling like strong coffee and some cologne I didn't recognize. She didn't even say hi, just went to the bathroom, then holed up in the bedroom with her laptop. I stayed in the living room, fixing a box fan just to keep my hands busy. I lay in bed that night, listening to the silence between us. Not angry silence. Not sad silence. Just absence. Like someone had turned down the volume on our life together. I don't think she even noticed. A few weeks later, I met my sister for lunch. Lydia's a nurse, works long shifts, always tired, but she makes time. We sat in this loud diner near the hospital. Smelled like grilled onions and cheap coffee. I told her about Jess. About the phrases, the weird distance. She talks like she's in a documentary, I said, poking at my eggs. Lydia frowned. Kev, that's not normal. She's treating you like some project to fix. I shrugged. I figured maybe it's a phase. Midlife crisis or something. She's 30, Lydia said. Not 80. I chuckled. Feels like she aged 30 years in the last 6 months. Lydia leaned forward. You're not a problem she needs to solve. You're her husband. If she doesn't see that, that's on her. I didn't say much. Just nodded. But what she said stuck. It sat in my gut like cold coffee. I tried talking to Jess after that. Sat her down one night after dinner. Jess, I said, do you even like being married anymore? She blinked. That's a loaded question. No, it's a simple one. She looked at me for a second, then said, I think we're on different paths. Okay, so what do we do? I don't know, she said. I need time to process. I'm not ready to give up, but I also can't shrink myself to fit the life you want. I stared at her. Shrink herself? What life did she think I wanted? A little peace? A little laughter? Was that too much? I didn't sleep that night. The week leading up to my birthday was quiet. Not the good kind of quiet. Not the comfortable, shared silence type. It was the kind where you feel like you're walking around your own house like a guest. Jess was there, technically. Moving from one room to the next, laptop in hand, earbuds in. Always typing. Always reading. Always somewhere else. I'd get home from work, peel off the heavy boots, rinse the dust off my face, and she wouldn't even look up. She'd be on the couch with some notebook, underlining words like sovereignty and emotional labor. The smell of her old vanilla candles was gone, replaced by some sharp eucalyptus thing that made the whole place feel like a spa lobby. One night, I came home to find she'd rearranged the living room. Again, couch was now facing the window, coffee table gone, yoga mat rolled out in the middle like it was the center of our life. My toolbox had been shoved into the hallway closet. No word, no warning. I said, you moved the couch again? She didn't look up. It's part of my flow. Flow of what? My energy. I need space to breathe. Right. Because apparently my presence was clogging up her oxygen. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed while she was brushing her teeth. I looked at our wedding photo on the dresser, the one where she had pie flour on her nose and I was holding her waist like I never wanted to let go. I stared at it for a long time. It felt like looking at someone else's life. She came out of the bathroom, hair tied up, phone in hand, already half checked out. I asked her if she wanted to do something for my birthday. Nothing big, just maybe get takeout. Watch a movie like old times. She didn't even pause. I've got a workshop that day. I raised an eyebrow. You can't skip one? It's not just a class, Kev. It's part of my process. Your process. She nodded, integrating the masculine and feminine. It's important. I almost said something then. Almost asked her, what about me? What about us? But the words just sat there in the back of my throat like wet concrete. Instead, I nodded. Like always. I didn't even know what to say to that. I think I just nodded and rolled over. The morning of my birthday, she was already gone by the time I woke up. No note. No text. Just a sink full of her cereal bowl and a half-empty oat milk carton. I didn't expect much, honestly. I figured maybe she'd at least pick up a cake or bring home dinner. Something. I spent the day fixing the old vacuum in the garage, not because it mattered, but because my hands needed to do something. The motor kept sticking, and I ended up with grease all over my fingers. Smelled like machine oil and burned dust. At least it was familiar. She came back in the afternoon. Walked in like it was any other day, holding a paper bag and her phone pressed to her ear. She waved at me without breaking the call. 10 minutes later, she finally came to the garage door, leaned against the frame. I got you something, she said, all cheerful. That was the moment. She handed me the book and the certificate. How to be a real man. And a therapy voucher. Her face? That's what I remember most. She really thought she nailed it. Like this was going to fix me. Like I was just some rusty part she could swap out. I held the book in my hands for a moment. What's this? I asked. My voice wasn't angry. Just blank. She beamed. It's a sign that I care. I want you to grow, Kevin. To evolve. I nodded slowly. Then walked to the trash can and dropped the book in. It made a soft thud at the bottom. She flinched. What are you doing? That's your idea of a birthday gift? She laughed. Nervously. It's just a joke, babe. Don't be so defensive. Right, I said. A joke. I didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. I just wiped my hands on a rag, slipped on my sneakers, and said I was going for a walk. Don't be childish, she called after me. I'm trying to help you. Yeah, help. I walked 3 blocks to the park and sat on a bench near the playground. It was one of those cooler spring evenings, sky still a bit orange from the sunset. I watched some dad push his kid on a swing, both of them laughing like nothing in the world mattered. I didn't even feel envy, just emptiness. I must have sat there for 2 hours, thinking, was I really that broken in her eyes? When we met, she liked me because I was steady, because I didn't play games, because I listened. Now, I was some outdated version of manhood that needed to be patched and updated like an old phone. I didn't get it. I wasn't perfect, but I worked hard. I came home. I stayed loyal. I did the damn dishes. When she started chasing whatever spiritual ladder she was on, I didn't mock it. I didn't drag her down. I waited. I gave space. I let her grow. But at some point, she stopped growing with me and started growing away from me. I walked back home close to midnight. The lights were off. She was already in bed. I didn't bother changing clothes. Just lay down next to her, facing the ceiling. Her back was to me. She didn't move. The next morning, I woke up early. She was still asleep. Her arm was dangling off the bed, fingers curled slightly. I looked at her, really looked, and I realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Not just the haircut, the new clothes, the endless books. I mean her. The person. I made coffee, sat at the table, thought about all the years we spent building something, and how she'd slowly torn it down with a smile and a dozen well-meaning phrases she didn't even write herself. That day, I did something small, but important. I took the photo of us from the dresser and put it in a drawer. Not thrown away, just put away. Later that week, she came home late again. Smelled like those strange colognes. Said she was at a connection circle. I didn't ask questions. Didn't even look up from the TV. She paused by the hallway. You're quiet. I shrugged. Not much to say. She didn't answer. Just nodded and walked off. She didn't notice the framed photo was missing. The distance between us wasn't emotional anymore. It was physical, tangible, measurable in feet, in hours, in the silence that grew louder than words ever could. At work, guys started asking if everything was all right at home. I said, yeah, just busy. Because what else do you say? My wife thinks I'm a half-finished man she needs to fix. Didn't really fit into a coffee break chat. Then came the night that broke whatever was left. She came home humming. Actually humming. Had this box of herbs or crystals or some other nonsense. She looked happy. Lighter. Like she'd had a great time. I was eating dinner. A real dinner. Meatloaf. Mashed potatoes. The kind of food she used to love. She walked by, glanced at my plate, wrinkled her nose. Still eating that processed stuff? I looked up. Yeah, it's dinner. She shook her head. No judgment. It's just, your body's trying to tell you something. My body's fine. It's your choice, she said, with a little shrug. That shrug. It was the last nail. Later that night, I sat on the porch with a beer and thought about how I'd let it go this far. How many things I'd let slide. Not because I was weak, but because I hoped she'd come back to herself. To us. But that woman, the one who used to curl up next to me with a cup of tea and laugh at dumb sitcoms, she was long gone. Replaced by someone who saw me as a reminder of what she thought she'd outgrown. And I was done being someone else's mirror for disappointment. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the half-dead plant Jess used to mist every morning. And something just snapped. I picked it up and threw it into the sink. Not hard, but loud enough to break the silence. Then I leaned forward, elbows on the table, and let my head drop into my hands. Not crying, not shouting, just breathing heavy, like my own body didn't know what to do with all that pressure building up for months. I sat like that for a long time. Then I stood up, cleaned up the dirt, threw out the broken pot, and went to bed. The morning after I put the wedding photo away, I woke up before the sun. Didn't need an alarm, my body just knew. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence. Jess was still asleep beside me, turned to the wall, wrapped up in the blanket like a cocoon. Her breathing was soft, even, peaceful, and I remember thinking, how is she sleeping so well while I feel like I'm suffocating in my own bed? I got up, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with a notebook I used to use for duct measurements and job estimates. But this time, I just sat there flipping pages, not writing anything, just thinking about the past year, about the thousands of little things I let slide, about how I'd been more roommate than husband, and how I'd stopped seeing any way back to who we were. I didn't have a plan. There was no dramatic build-up, no fantasy about catching her in some huge betrayal. Nothing like that. I was just done. Quietly, solidly done. After I finished my coffee, I went into the hallway closet and pulled out an old moving box. One of the sturdy ones we used when we moved in together. It still had "Kitchen, Fragile" written on the side. Felt appropriate. I took my time. I folded her clothes neatly, packed her books, the stacks of psychology, self-help, empowerment manuals, the framed quotes she'd hung around the house. You are not responsible for anyone's healing but your own. That one made me pause. I wrapped her essential oils in a towel so they wouldn't break. Packed her laptop, her tea collection, her little ceramic mug that said alignment over everything. All of it fit in one box. One life, packed and sealed. I carried it into the bedroom and set it gently on the floor, next to her side of the bed. Then I turned on the light. She stirred, squinted at me, and sat up slowly. "What's going on?" she said, voice groggy. I didn't raise my voice, didn't puff my chest. I just looked her in the eye and said, "These are your things. You can take them with you." She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "I'm done, Jess. If I'm not a real man in your eyes, then you should go find one that meets your standard. The papers are already in motion." She stared at the box for a long second, then back at me. "You're joking," she said flatly. "No, I'm not." She got out of bed slowly, barefoot, walked to the box, and knelt beside it. Ran her hand along the tape, like she was checking if it was real. Then she stood up, crossed her arms, and said, "You're being dramatic." I shook my head. "No, just clear." She gave this little smirk, not kind, not sad, just smug. "Honestly, maybe it's for the best. Now I won't have someone dragging me down every time I try to grow." That hit harder than I thought it would, but I didn't show it. She picked up the box like it was nothing, balanced it on her hip, and started humming. Humming. Like this was just another errand. Some song I didn't recognize, upbeat and out of place. But just as she reached the door, she paused. "You know what's funny?" she said, voice sharper now. "You think you're the steady one, the strong one, but you're just afraid of change. Always have been." Her voice cracked on that last word. Just a little. She looked like she wanted to say more, something nasty, maybe, but bit it back. Then she laughed under her breath. "Whatever. Good luck with your shelves, Kevin." At the door, she turned back and looked at me, like she expected a last word. Please stay. A fight. Something." I didn't say a thing. She left. No tears. No begging. No apologies. Just that smug little tune and the sound of the door clicking shut. The first night alone was quiet. Not empty, just still. Peaceful almost. I sat on the couch and didn't turn the TV on. Just listened to the hum of the fridge, the wind through the vent I'd installed last year. I expected to feel broken, or angry, or something. But mostly, I just felt clean. Like the static in the air had finally settled. I cleaned up the house the next day. Took down the vision boards, the affirmations stuck to the mirror, the stack of her notebooks by the couch. Threw away the crystals. Donated the yoga blocks. Swept the living room twice, even though it didn't need it. I just needed to do something with my hands. At work, nobody noticed anything different about me. But I moved a little easier. I cracked more jokes. Ate a full lunch for the first time in weeks. One of the guys asked if I got a raise. I told him no. Just found some space to breathe again. A week later, she texted, "Jess, hey, can we talk?" "Jess, not about getting back together. Just talk." "Jess, You can ignore me if you want. Yeah. I didn't answer. 2 days later, she knocked on the door. I didn't open it. Watched through the peephole as she stood there with her arms crossed, biting her lip, glancing at her car like she was debating if she'd made a mistake coming. She stood there for 10 minutes, then left. That night, she left a voicemail. Her voice sounded calmer, softer. Hey, I know you're probably still upset. I just wanted to say, I didn't mean for it to go like that. I really thought I was helping you. I know now how that probably felt, and I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk, even just as friends, I'm around. I deleted it because I didn't need a friend who thought I was broken. I didn't need her version of help. I didn't need another round of gentle corrections or book recommendations or metaphors about masculine energy. I needed air, and I had it now. A few weeks later, I ran into her at a gas station. Middle of the day, I was grabbing a drink after work. She pulled up to the pump across from mine. We made eye contact. She froze. She looked different. Same hair, but no makeup. Sweatshirt and leggings. Tired eyes. Like someone who finally ran out of enlightenment to chase. She stepped out of the car and walked over slowly. Hey, she said. Hey. We stood there for a second, neither of us really knowing how to bridge the gap. You look good, she said. Thanks. You too. She nodded, then looked down. I miss talking to you. I shrugged. We didn't talk much at the end. Yeah, she said quietly. I thought I had everything figured out. I thought I was becoming this better version of myself. And maybe I did change, but I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away. I didn't respond right away. Then I said, you didn't want a husband. You wanted a student. She looked like she might cry, but she didn't. I'm sorry, she said. For everything. For making you feel small. For not seeing you. I nodded. I know. Another pause. She opened her mouth to say something else, then stopped. I won't bother you again, she said finally. Just wanted to say that. I nodded again. Take care, Jess. And that was it. She walked back to her car, got in, and drove away. Funny thing is, I don't hate her. I'm not angry. Not anymore. I just don't miss her. I miss the woman she used to be. The girl who made pies on Sundays and laughed at my awful jokes. The one who sat on the porch with me and talked about dogs and deck chairs and dumb dreams. That version's long gone. And I'm okay with that. I don't need to be real, by her definition. I just need to be me. And that's enough. It's been 3 months. The house feels different now. Not just because it's quieter, it actually feels like mine again. The air's lighter. The layout makes sense. No crystals on the windowsills. No motivational quotes above the toilet. No sudden yoga circles in the middle of the living room. Just me, my coffee, my tools, and the old baseball games I rewatch on weekends. I moved the couch back to where it used to be. Turns out I liked it facing the TV, not the window. Got rid of the essential oil diffuser. The whole house used to smell like a eucalyptus funeral. Now it smells like fried eggs, fresh coffee, sometimes even beer if I forget to rinse the bottle. I work. I eat. I fix things that need fixing. I sleep. And for the first time in a long time, I feel steady again. Not happy every minute. Not dancing in the rain. Just steady. And I'll take that. A few people ask me how I'm doing. Guys at work, neighbors, even my sister Lydia, who, by the way, high-fived me when I told her what happened. She called Jess the woman who tried to spiritually rebrand her own husband. Not wrong. I tell them all the same thing. I'm okay. Not great. Not terrible. Just okay. And that's more than enough. I still get the occasional message. Mostly short ones. Jess, hope you're well. Jess, just saw something that reminded me of you. Jess, no pressure, just checking in. I don't reply. Not out of spite. Just because I don't owe her that anymore. I used to think closure needed a conversation. Now I know silence can be a pretty damn good answer too. The workshop flyers still show up in our old email account. I finally unsubscribed from the mailing lists. Some of the subjects were almost comical. Unlocking the warrior within, healing the inner husband, letting go of male resistance. I used to read them out loud just for a laugh. Now I just delete them. I got back into my own rhythm. Started tinkering with side projects again. Built a shelf in the garage. Helped a buddy install vents in his mom's house. Fixed up the old lawnmower. Stuff I actually enjoy. I even started making real dinners again, not just frozen pizza. Meatloaf. Chili. Real food. The kind that doesn't need a hashtag or a glow-up filter. Some nights I sit on the porch with a beer and just listen to the neighborhood. Dogs barking, kids laughing, someone mowing their lawn too late. It's not fancy. It's not aligned or intentional, but it feels right. And when I think back to where I was standing in my own garage, holding that book, listening to her tell me she was helping me evolve, I realized something. I didn't need fixing. I needed someone who saw me. Not someone who saw a version of me they could sculpt. Jess didn't leave because I was broken. She left because I wouldn't play along with the role she'd assigned me. And the moment I stopped performing, stopped pretending it would change, she packed up her growth and walked out. Let her. Because I'd rather be alone and breathing than together and shrinking. I don't hold grudges. Not anymore. But I also don't hand out second chances to people who turn love into a classroom. And yeah, maybe I didn't handle it with fireworks. Maybe I didn't scream or smash plates or write some emotional letter. Maybe I just packed her things and turned on the light. But that was enough. She knew. I knew. And there was nothing left to talk about. Last week, I bought myself a new drill. Not because I needed one, my old one still worked, but because I wanted something that was mine, that was new, that hadn't been touched by the old life. Something sharp, solid, quiet. This morning I texted my sister, just one line. Thanks for having my back. She replied with a thumbs up, and always. I think I might stop by her place this weekend. Bring a six-pack. Maybe fix that squeaky cabinet she's always complaining about. Just something small. But it feels like a good place to start. Just like I am now. And if I ever date again, I'm not rushing it. I'll be looking for someone who likes people, not projects. Someone who's more into real dinners than rituals. Someone who doesn't hand out books instead of affection. Or maybe I'll just keep making shelves and drinking beer on the porch. Who knows? Anyway, that's the story, man. Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should have talked it out one last time. Or maybe I waited too long. Maybe I should have packed that box 6 months earlier. What do you think? Did I do the right thing? Or was I too quiet for too long? Was I patient? Or just weak? Hell, maybe both. But either way, I'm still here. Still breathing. Still steady. And that's more than I could say before.